everyone, I'm Swift, and today I'm going to be talking about Disney's newest animated miniseries, Iwaju. When I first saw the trailer for Iwaju, I was cautiously excited. It looked like a cutesy kids show about a girl fighting crime with her pet robot lizard while dodging her overprotective dad. The setting looked pretty familiar as well, bearing a strong resemblance to the other Disney IP futuristic African city, Wakanda. Despite that, I was very excited to see what kind of story Pan-African Kugali Media would produce in conjunction with Disney. And on reading up on Iwaju and actually watching the show, I was dazzled. Iwaju was not just a cutesy kids show. Iwaju was a really conscientious story about classism and trust made for all ages. The seemingly familiar setting was made to directly criticize settings like Wakanda, which have no real history and tend to be utopian in nature. Iwaju makes a deliberate choice to take place in near-future Lagos, a real Nigerian city, and by doing so acknowledges all of the history and problems that come with that. What we have here is a criticism of classism through a specifically real-world African lens. The actual characters are grounded, sweet, and familiar in a good way. The artistic direction is beautiful and the story is solid. Iwaju has wonderful themes of family, classism, and friendship all wrapped up in an awesome sci-fi Soraya Goyu meets Home Alone adventure. I'm honestly surprised that I haven't seen much talk about it. I suspect a lot of people, like me, were skeptical initially of the premise, and others regrettably may have been turned off by the authentic accents of the characters. I just know it was super cool, and I'd love it if more people checked it out. So, let's get into it. Apologies in advance if I mispronounce any African names or words. I try and research beforehand, but am far from perfect. Additionally, Africa is huge. I know that. I use the word African a lot in this video. Just recognize that I know it's an entire continent filled with all kinds of distinct cultures and people. Iwaju, having been made by a Pan-African company, approached the show with a Pan-African perspective and not a specifically Nigerian one, and so that cannot be ignored. That being said, spoilers ahead for Disney's Iwaju. Iwaju follows 10-year-old Tola Martins, the daughter of security tech genius Tunde Martins. Lately there's been a string of child kidnappings, and Tunde is working hard on developing a special, lizard-shaped robot called Otine that can help keep kids safe. Unfortunately, he's been working so hard that he actually forgot it's Tola's birthday. Also unfortunately, the kidnappers have their eyes on Tola. Tola is a bright, curious, and colorful young girl who wants to know everything about the world, especially the town where her father grew up, but she's not allowed to go there. I think you can imagine where this is going. Yeah, she sneaks out to her dad's hometown and gets kidnapped by the bad guys. Through a series of flashbacks, we come to understand that both Tunde and the villain Bodhi come from poverty, but chose different ways to climb the economic ladder. Tunde became an engineer and got a job at a high-end tech company, and Bodhi decided to kidnap the children of the wealthy and ransom them for big money. But it's more complicated than that, because it's made clear that both of their actions in the story are the direct results of their economic trauma. Bodhi despises the wealthy after an experience he had as a child that left him jaded. He was jealous and stole from his mother's boss so that he could have even one small pretty thing. He and his mother were then thrown into the street and were shown no sympathy from his boss's spoiled children. He took this frustration and anger and decided to make the rich children feel what he felt that day, all while getting paid. Bodhi uses his money to be the one in control and now exploits the poor around him, while knowing full well that he will never be the same as Tunde. Tunde, meanwhile, was lucky enough to be given an opportunity by a wealthy woman who recognized his talent. He originally intended for his inventions to help his hometown, only the realities of business prevented that, and he instead lies to himself and pretends he is helping, when, really after he left, he never looked back. The pair of them directly parallel each other, and they serve as dramatic foils. Their designs both use cool colors and feature glasses in opposite shapes, Tunde's being square, Bodhi's being round. Tunde dresses in a solid suit without much ornamentations, whereas Bodhi has bling galore to emphasize his fixation with material wealth. Tunde wants Tola to have a better life than he did, and so he tries to keep her away from his old life as much as possible. He disapproves of her doing manual labor like cleaning and will tell her little of where he grew up, while still buying bread from there for himself. Tunde looks down upon and is suspicious of Kole, the gardener boy who works for him, despite the fact that Kole comes from the same hometown Tunde did. He's convinced that Kole can't possibly have good intentions or be legitimate friends with Tola. Tunde is a hypocrite, who has forgotten where he came from and who he used to be. Bodhi and Tunde continue their parallelism in how they treat the poor. Tunde ignores them and pretends his technology is helping them, when really none of them can afford it. Bodhi, meanwhile, has a more direct impact and helps them in an exploitive way. He makes predatory loans and pays his workers a fraction of what they earn on a ransom while pretending to be a Robin Hood, when really he's just a greedy piece of trash. Everyone on the mainland knows who Bodhi is and fears him, but almost no one remembers Tunde. Now I've already said a lot, but I'm not going to give away any more of the plot. Just know that it is layered and it is amazing. Iwaju is not a cutesy kids show. It is not Black Panther. It is its own thing. And that is a criticism of classism through a specifically African lens. Speaking of that African lens, one thing I think is super cool is the choice to set Iwaju in a real African city. A few different media now have shown us smart genius girls in fictional African cities. Most notably, Marvel's Wakanda and Overwatch's Numbani. Both of these cities are awesome. Wakanda especially has been a source of great inspiration and pride for people of African ancestry all over the world since its conception. Especially in the movies, Wakanda does an awesome job of blending real-world cultural aspects with cool sci-fi stuff. I am a very big fan of the shield capes, for instance, and it creates a uniquely African-inspired flavor of science fiction, which, let's be real, is usually pretty white or Asian. I love Wakanda, and even have an Okoye doll sitting on my desk right now. But Wakanda, cool as it is also inherently unrealistic. It's a magical, untouched nation, with advanced technology that uniformly reaches all social and economic classes. It has a history that's more mythical than it is realistic. Numbani, the other futuristic African utopia science city from Overwatch, is similarly flawed. See, Numbani is literally a brand new city, so it also has no history or pressure of the real world placed on it. This can have the unwanted consequence of making it seem like Africans would have to start over completely from scratch in order to move beyond imperialism, war, and prejudice. Which, in the context of Overwatch, where everything got decimated by evil robots, is more okay. But it does make you think. But it also means that they can be fast and loose with the culture and representation. I'm not versed enough in that part of Africa to give any real input on how well Numbani is done. Those are just my observations in regards to how Numbani relates to Iwaju. By being set in the real city of Lagos, Iwaju directly challenges these settings and criticizes them. It asks, why can't a real African culture and city do these things? Why does it have to be a fairy tale one? And then, why can't it have flaws? Why does it have to be a perfect utopia? It's a more nuanced approach to the African science city trope. One thing that's interesting to me is that all three of these series feature a genius girl, and two of those girls have robots based on local animals that were specifically designed for defense. All three of these girls are in positions of wealth. Of the three, Tola is unquestionably the most normal, Cherie and Ify both being off-the-charts child geniuses. I don't really have anything much to say there apart from, that's interesting. On a completely different note, I love that Oteen isn't just a random lizard, but is explicitly based on the Agamo lizard, which is actually found in Nigeria. Unlike some other recent Disney animals that don't quite match the setting that they're in, even if they are cute. Another detail I love is Tola's Jimmy Neutron-esque hairdo machine. This hairdo machine is both a super cute way to introduce the technology of the world, but it also tells us pretty quickly that Tola's mom is not in the picture. If Tola's mom was alive, she'd have been helping Tola with her hair, especially on her birthday. Hair care in general is a big deal for mothers and daughters of African ancestry. It's bonding, it's teaching, it's just love. And yeah, obviously I'm super white, but this is an experience I've seen or heard described by a lot of black women from all over the world. The hairdo machine also tells us that there is a disconnect between Tola and her dad, before we even see them together on screen. Tunde is too busy with work to try and fill in the shoes of Tola's lost mother. Compare this to the dad in the animated short Hair Love, who tries and learns to do his daughter's hair, and it helps them both get through their grief and furthers their bond. I just love this kind of storytelling. And before we finish, I want to add that, being a Disney production, it goes without saying that the art in Iwaju is beautiful. The animation is awesome, the sets are highly detailed, the character design is crisp, and the transitions are super cool. I love the patterns and the use of color, it's all just a treat for the eyes. I also get a kick out of the anime glasses lens flare thing that happens a lot in it. Overall, Iwaju is awesome, and if you have Disney Plus or a friend who does, you should go and see it. All the episodes together are the length of a long movie, so it could be done in 1 or 2 sittings without guilt. I'm really looking forward to seeing what else Kugali Media makes, and I'd love to see more high-effort animated content from Disney again. I'm a little bummed that Iwaju is a TV miniseries rather than a movie, because it means fewer people will bother to watch it, even if it's about the same length and just as high quality as a movie, if not more. I super recommend you go check it out. Thanks for watching, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe.